Hello friends. How are you all? I hope you are doing well. Today, I bring you a story that will touch your heart, make you think, and maybe make you realize if you're at a wrong turn in life. So, let's begin today's story. But before that, a small request. If you like our efforts, please like the channel, subscribe, and join us on this beautiful journey. My name is Hira. I am 5 feet 6 inches tall. My complexion was such that, in childhood, people used to call me a doll, milky white, soft and delicate, like a petal of a flower. My hair was thick, long, and black, like a deep shadow of clouds across the night sky. My eyes had such grace, as if someone had gently lined them with kohl, and they sparkled in a way that could stop anyone in their tracks. When I walked, people would turn away but still try to steal a glance. And when I spoke, it was like a string of pearls gently falling, soft, calm, and touching the heart. Despite all these qualities, my fate, my destiny, was not as bright as my beauty. I always believed that beauty changes the world around you, but time taught me that beauty needs fortune, and fortune is not given equally to everyone. I belong to a small town, a place where time moves slowly, where evenings are quiet, and where people may know each other, but they don't truly understand one another. My father was a teacher at a local school, and my mother, she was like the voice of my heart. I first understood the meaning of love in my mother's eyes, when she looked at my father, when she brushed my hair with a smile, or when she fixed my dupatta and said, "One day, my daughter, you will be part of someone's destiny." Since childhood, I loved reading books, especially stories filled with love, dreams, sparkling eyes, and the sweetness of longing. I used to sit for hours reading novels and imagining myself as one of the characters. Sometimes I was Maywish, sometimes Marine, sometimes Zari. The walls of my room were witnesses to my dreams, covered in posters, pages of poetry, and little notes that kept the secrets of my solitude. From the outside, my world seemed very ordinary, but from within, I felt very special, at least that's what I believed. I thought that when my love would arrive, it would be unlike anything else. He would look at me and instantly know that I wasn't just any girl. He would hear the voice of my heart, without me saying a word. I dreamt of the day someone would bring me flowers, not because it was a special occasion, but just because I was special to him. My college days were the moments in which I wove the most dreams. I was an ordinary student, quiet, but still noticeable to everyone in the class. Perhaps there was something in the silence of my eyes, or maybe the changing colors of my dupatta gave away my mood, that today, I wasn't feeling cheerful. And during those very days, a face quietly entered my life, slowly, without any announcement, just like the rain, silent, yet capable of changing everything. At that time, I didn't know who he was, where he came from, or why my eyes kept returning to him. I told myself over and over that it was all just imagination, something that only happens in movies or books, but the heart refused to accept that. His presence became the most beautiful moment of my day. When I saw him, it was as if my heart forgot how to beat. His smile, his gaze, all of it was building a whole new world inside me. And that was the moment I first felt a shift in the rhythm of my heartbeat. That was the moment I realized that love isn't just something to read about, it's something to live, something to feel, and perhaps it was going to become the biggest reality of my life. That day was, perhaps, one of the most beautiful days of my life. Even the sunlight seemed softer, as if nature itself had calmed the atmosphere. I was standing outside the college library, waiting for my friend as usual, when his voice hit my ears for the very first time. "If you don't mind, is this book yours?" I was startled and looked up. He was pointing toward a book that had apparently fallen from my bag. "Yes, thank you, it's mine," I said, lowering my gaze. "I often see you in the library, you have a very unique taste," he said with a gentle smile. For a moment, my heartbeat stopped. It was the first time someone had commented on my book choices, and in such a way that it felt like he knew me better than I knew myself. That was the moment when, for the first time, the windows of my heart began to open for a stranger. We ended that day with a short conversation, but my heart replayed those words again and again. The next day, I saw him again, and then every day after that, sometimes in the library, sometimes in a quiet corner of the cafeteria, sometimes outside the classrooms. At first, our conversations were limited to books and weather, but then, matters of the heart also began to find their way into words. He knew how to make me laugh, and I knew how to lose myself in his words. Sometimes he would bring me a rose I liked, sometimes he would leave a tiny note tucked between my files. "Your smile seemed a little less today, is everything okay?" And I would read that note and smile involuntarily, maybe even shed a tear or two, out of happiness. Then one day, he gave me a small gift, a locket with a moon and star, and said, "This is for you, because you are the light of my world." I couldn't say anything at that moment. With moist eyes and lowered gaze, I simply held the locket. Love doesn't need grand declarations, it breathes in the smallest of moments. It hides in the language of eyes, it screams in silent moments, "I am incomplete without you." Time passed, and with each passing day, he became more and more mine. His words, his laughter, his ability to know what I was feeling, all of it began to settle in my heart. Sometimes he'd bring coffee for me, and sometimes I'd bring him his favorite chocolate. Words became less necessary, our eyes spoke for us. Love was no longer just a conversation, it had become a state of being, as if we were 2 pages of the same book, separate, yet bound together. Love can never be confined to words, but then came a day when he sat in front of me, eyes moist and voice trembling, and finally said the one thing my heart had longed to hear for years. "Hira, I may be able to lose everything in this world, but not you. I feel like you're that silent prayer which God answered without me even speaking it." I stayed quiet for a few moments, my heartbeat quickened, and my eyelashes grew wet. In a soft voice, I simply said, "Me too." That moment felt as though time had stopped. Everything paused, only 2 hearts continued to beat. After that confession, our meetings took on a new color. Sometimes we sat on a park bench sipping tea, sometimes stood quietly under one umbrella in the rain, and sometimes sat under a tree weaving dreams of the future. He would hold my hand and say, "If you keep holding this hand forever, I'll never give up." One day, he brought me a blue dupatta. "This would suit you so well, just like the moon suits the sky." I wore the dupatta, smiled shyly while avoiding his gaze, and silently thanked God that such love had come into my life. But life doesn't always move forward like fairy tales. Slowly, whispers began to echo through our homes. "Hira has changed a lot lately," my mother's voice carried concern. "Where do you go every day? Who is this Ollie?" My father's tone had turned stern. "One day, his family found out about us as well. This girl is not from our family, end this now, or we'll take strict action." His household atmosphere changed too. He was no longer allowed to go out, and my phone often remained silent. Our meetings became fewer, then stopped altogether. But the bond in our hearts remained intact, neither in feeling, nor in prayer did we ever lack. We wanted to stay true to the promises we made. We knew, these obstacles were temporary, and love is never temporary. He would still send me secret messages. "Be patient. I will take you with me, openly, and your forehead will bear my name." And I would reply, "I will endure everything for you, just don't leave my side." One night, while I was talking to him on the phone, my heartbeat was rapid, as if the moment was about to vanish forever. The silence of the night felt like the calm before a storm. His messages kept popping up on my screen, and I replied with a strange sense of comfort and sweetness in my heart. But the moment I put the phone down, I heard that voice. "What is this?" My father had entered the room. He saw the phone, and his face changed, a storm had erupted. "What are you doing? Have you lost your mind? Are you trying to shame us?" There was fury in his voice, but buried within it was pain. I couldn't say a word, my lips trembled, my heart pounded. The next moment, he snatched the phone and stormed out of the room, and I stood frozen, my head bowed in fear. Later, when I opened the door, he was gone, but his angry voice still echoed through the house. "Is this what we raised you for? This is your upbringing? We need to remind you of your limits." A deep pain gripped my heart, as if someone had torn it apart, and I was utterly helpless. By taking my phone, my father had cut off everything, the words, the connection, the memories. From that day on, the phone, those conversations, those moments, they all became part of the past. Strict restrictions were placed in the house. I wasn't allowed out late at night anymore, and I was confined to my room. My eyes always carried a look of fear, as if the entire world had turned against me. Everyone's attitude had changed. My mother's eyes were full of suspicion, my brother's had turned cold, and my father's gaze was filled with anger and a heart heavy with unspoken complaints. There was no light left in my heart. Each day, every moment, felt like I wasn't truly living, just existing. Is there any happiness left in my life? I asked myself, and with each question, the emptiness in my heart deepened. Then one day, tired of all the criticism and taunts at home, when the world started to feel unfamiliar and indifferent, I wondered, can I still be happy in this world? Can I endure all these hardships and still find something meaningful? There was a question rising from the depths of my soul. Is the purpose of my life only to listen to what others say and live in their shadows? And then came that night, when I whispered to myself, I don't want to live in this world anymore. So much despair and sadness had consumed me that every path in life looked dull and meaningless. I thought maybe this was my fate, to live with pain and sorrow forever. That night, as I wrestled with these thoughts, a sudden urge pushed me to try reaching out to Ollie once again. But I no longer had my phone. I had to ask someone else to help. I sent a message through a close friend, asking her to contact Ollie and tell him I needed to see him, to talk to him. Within a few days, that friend managed to get the message to him. Then, one evening, I received a message from Ollie. Hira, I know you're going through a hard time. I can feel your pain. I promise you, you will not end like this. I'm coming to your house with a marriage proposal. We will get married. Tears filled my eyes. A wave of hope rushed through me, like a ray of light piercing through the darkness that had overtaken my life. Will he really do this? I wondered. But a voice inside me whispered, maybe this is the moment you've been waiting for. But when Ollie's proposal finally reached our home, my parents firmly rejected it. You're too young, my father said. Now is not the time for marriage. The hope Ollie had sparked in my heart slowly began to fade again. I slipped back into that darkness of despair. But Ollie didn't give up. He worked hard and started a successful business. In just a few months, he became a well-known businessman. His dedication, success, and determination showed me that he truly could change my life. Then, one day, another message came from Ollie. Hira, I'm now ready to give you the life you've always dreamed of. I want to propose to you again, because now I can give you everything you deserve. Joy rushed through my veins. And this time, when my parents saw his progress, his seriousness, they agreed. We began preparations for our wedding. You see this day, Hira. Ollie said, I promised you, and now I've come to fulfill that promise. That was the moment when my dreams began to come true. And in Ollie's love, I found the light that came to erase all the darkness of my life. Our wedding was grand and full of celebration. Happiness filled the air, and it felt like a dream had finally come true. I believed my life was now complete. Each passing day brought us closer, we cherished every moment of love, and it felt like our love story would last forever. But with time, the love we once felt during the early days of marriage slowly began to fade. There were issues that we both ignored at first, but over time, those small problems grew into deep wounds. One major issue arose from how Ollie began noticing flaws in my appearance, especially my eyes. He used to adore their color and shape, but now he started criticizing them. At first, he joked about it, but slowly, those jokes turned into hurtful remarks, and they began to sting. Then there was my mother-in-law's growing interference. She constantly complained about me to Ollie, pointing out my flaws. Sometimes, she interfered so much in our personal matters that I felt anxious and suffocated. I tried to talk to Ollie many times about how I felt. But he always brushed it off, as if my concerns didn't matter. He would say, "These are small things. You should respect your elders." But I wanted him to understand, some things are not small. They hurt deeply. On the other side, my own family wasn't making it any easier. They constantly pressured Ollie to keep in touch with their relatives. It felt like everyone wanted to have a say in our marriage, and the personal bond between us started fading. Their constant interference made me feel like our relationship was being controlled by others. Things reached a point where we had to face the truth. We started to seriously consider separation. It was the most painful decision of my life. But deep inside, I knew that the love between us had weakened. It no longer had the strength to carry the weight of so many wounds. Ollie said, "The distance between us has grown too wide now, it can't be fixed." And I quietly nodded. That was the moment I realized. The dream we once lived had now become a memory of the past. Perhaps it was time for both of us to walk our own paths. Then came that day, a day I never imagined. The daily arguments, constant taunts, bitter words from my mother-in-law, and Ollie's changing behavior had made it impossible for me to even breathe peacefully. One day, things became unbearable. My mother called Ollie and said, "If our daughter is so unacceptable to you, then send her back. She doesn't deserve to be insulted in your home." And just like that, on a random afternoon, with no proper conversation, no court, no lawyer, Ollie dropped me off at my parents' house with my belongings. There were no formalities, just bitter words, painful silence, and an unspoken divorce. I stood at the door as his car turned and drove away. As if I had never existed in his life. When I returned home, I tried to hide everything from my parents. But the tears in my eyes and the pain written on my face had already said it all. My mother held me close to her heart, but in her eyes, I saw a sorrow and disappointment that may never wash away, even after years. My father said nothing. He just locked himself in his room. His silence screamed louder than any words, each moment felt like a slap of guilt. My life was once again confined to that same room. The room where I once dreamed of Ollie. But now, in place of those dreams, there was only silence. I became like a robot, living each day in the same routine. No laughter, no desires, no hope. I would eat, sleep, and wake up to the same lifeless version of myself, as if the ability to feel had been erased. People at home, neighbors, relatives, they all whispered the same thing. There must be something wrong with the girl, that's why she was sent back. Those words pierced my soul like knives. I was already broken. And sometimes at night, I would wonder. What if I hadn't said all those things? What if I had stayed silent, endured it? Maybe if I had stayed with Ollie, it wouldn't have hurt this much. Now, only one emotion remained inside me, regret. And only one thought echoed in my heart. That I had made the biggest mistake of my life. Years have passed since the divorce. But time doesn't heal all wounds. People think divorce is just a decision, just a signature, a separation. But no one counts the silent years of torment a woman lives through afterward. I too lived them. Every day, every moment, every breath, felt like a burden. People's words didn't just scrape my skin, they clung to my soul. She couldn't adjust with her husband. She left her home over something small. She never valued her husband. Sometimes, my heart would break just seeing wedding pictures of old friends. And sometimes, watching a child hold their father's finger made something inside me shatter. Time slowly taught me a bitter truth. Without a husband, a woman is considered incomplete. Tolerance, patience, silence. These are things society only expects from women. This is the reality, no matter how bitter it may sound. This is a message for those girls who think divorce or cola is a form of fashion or freedom. Remember, the world outside will never fully accept you. Society only sees two statuses, married or helpless. Even if the husband is rude or harsh, time changes people. But if you break a marriage, the world punishes you for it forever. I've learned from my own life. No matter how a man is, a woman should try to save her home. Because without a man, without a roof of her own. A woman's world becomes unbearably lonely and cruel. If this story touched your heart, share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more, and stay with us on this journey.